All right, so I'm almost done with all the local color, putting it in. But I want to make sure I zoom out a little bit and kind of not leave any big portions of white unfilled. That's why I use a brush that's pressure sensitive, just to scale, so I can fill these areas in quickly when I want to. It's interesting to me to do a digital painting trying to kind of mimic a ceramicist glazing style, because of course in ceramics you can never tell what the color will be exactly until it's all finished and comes out of the kiln fired. But the big strength of digital painting is you can see immediately what your colors are doing and you can react immediately. So I've got some purples over here I can use. The local color behind the seam. I don't want to be too precious of it. So the seam is a dark color, I can put that in. And the seam of the collar. Actually, I'll probably save all those for the refined painting layer with the highlights. Establish some darks in this coat so I get a sense of where it's going. And I'm just using the brush. I've never stopped using just the brush tool. I'm just holding down Option every once in a while to steal colors. And that changes the brush into the paint dropper, which steals the color from any Photoshop file, which is why I can go back and forth between files without ever affecting any other files except this one. Now the challenge of digital painting is not in this stage, not in kind of capturing the energy of paint or even the textures of paint. The challenge is, I think, is in the refining stage and getting to a finished level that you're happy with. And because that's so challenging, no matter what kind of end product you're going for, the kind of default in styling that digital painters often use is photorealism. But I don't know that that's always the best choice, and it's definitely not what I'm going for here. Why can't digital paintings be impressionistic or expressionistic? I think they do more to support experimentalism in technique. So that's what I'm playing with here. But even if I were going for a photorealistic painting, I would still try to start it with this same amount of energy and versatility of local color. And remember, I'm just at 100%. The difference is opacity. The difference is that my edges are set to be wet edges, so they slightly blend with each other, just like they would with a brush. All right, so I think I'm happy with my flat color pass here. Want to see if there's any huge areas I've just left out in terms of not actually covering up the white by turning off some of the sketches. And yeah, just some of the colors and just some of the whites, I want to go ahead and put those in. Now this puts them in a lot as browns. And I actually kind of like that. But I want to get rid of all those flat whites and replace them with my own choice. So anything I see bright white, I'm going to fill it in on that local color layer. And that's why I've set aside some of these highlight colors off to the side, because I knew they'd be helpful. Some of these accent colors. And now instead of stealing from my photos, I'm mostly just stealing color choices from myself. And now the glasses. A little bit of that bright highlight in there. Have to paint it in. Along with that core shadow that makes them look more reflective. Like you're looking through a lens. The other thing I like about digital painting over digital coloring is I don't need such a sure hand. I'm not trying to place anything as exactly. To paraphrase an instructor I had, like painting is repainting, so I'm always going to be reasserting the marks that I want to keep and thinking twice about the marks I don't want to keep. So you don't need to worry about so much about each individual mark. Okay, the local color of the inside of her ear is darker. All right, so let's see. Yeah, that's going to work. So now I'm going to lock my local color, then unlock this next layer, which will be my refined color. And you can think of this as the glazing coat in painting or the detail coat, but instead of going right in and getting detailed, so you want to work general to specific, this is where I start putting in my highlights. So where are the brightest brights? Her hairline kind of shows through. And what colors do I want to use for that? And at the same time, what are some of the darkest shadows? How can I work with those? Now, if you want smooth, refined painting, you take your opacity down. And I'll get there. Right now, I'm just putting in these big, broad strokes. But by moving your opacity down a little bit, let's say to like around 70, it's going to mix with those layers underneath. And then you can steal those mixed colors and you can work in between. Some digital painters choose to use a softer edge brush for this. And the mistake a lot of digital painters use is they like zoom in to like refine and smooth everything. But you need to see what the big picture is, even if you want a smooth result, for it to make any sense. So I need that shadow to go into the eyebrow. I need the eyebrow to be softer edged kind of in the middle and be more skin colored. I need it to go darker on the inside of the eye, and now I'm shading around the eye a little bit, and underneath the eye especially. Allow yourself to make pretty bold marks, and then blend around them. Kind of ignored all the little wrinkles around her mouth because they belong on this layer, the different plays of light. And I'm at where I was at 100% with my local colors, now I'm only at 70%. But using the same brush, I like to use the same brush throughout. And even though I'm doing kind of refined things by the eyes, I'm still not zooming in yet. But I am noticing there's a little highlight above her eyelid, or on her eyelid here, that I didn't have, so I need to put that in. And I am working with a much lighter touch. And because my brush is pressure sensitive to scale, that lighter touch helps me. Going to refine the shapes. Let's see, I want a real pink or a real red. If I can't find it from my photo reference, oh, there we go, that one will work. Then I can always just go to the color selector and find it. And I have a color selector up here, so if I ever want to saturate something more, I can play with these sliders, or I can just pick it from this menu. And we get something a little bit more shocking. That's a little out there for me, though. All right, so let me zoom in to just show you what that refined painting can do. Without it, just big chunks of flat local color. With it, everything starts to kind of smooth together where you want it to smooth together. And you can get stronger effects. If I want to put some of these greens, some of these brighter tones into her highlights, I can, just like they are on her sculpture. To exaggerate them a little bit on this layer, and then play them back, because painting is repainting. But I find that I do better when I don't zoom in too much too soon. Instead, always focus on the big picture. And I like to have some strong colors in there too. So working on proportions, I made her nose a little too narrow at the bridge, so now I'm going to widen that out. Bring those shapes around. And when you don't know what to do with your brush in terms of the direction, you just follow the musculature of the face. You follow around it so that each brush stroke helps define the form.